Hey guys, this is Booligan with Airsoft, your treat BooliganAirsoft.com and Airsoft Insider Magazine. Today we're taking a quick video look at the WE Katana M4. Now you may recall previously I had reviewed the standard WE M4 AEG and was very impressed with it. This was years and years ago and I've since customized the thing and it's great. One of my favorite M4 platforms. So WE came out with their Katana series. The Katana is designed to kind of bridge the gap between a standard version 2 AEG and the Systema PTW, and it has some of the best features of both platforms in one relatively affordable package. This guy comes in from Airsoft Megastore at about $360 in the way that it currently sits, and you could buy the additional upgrade upper cylinder setups for about $50 or so. Now, my big complaint about this thing first off is just that it's kind of boring looking for now, but because it has full TM external parts compatibility, I can tweak this thing out pretty much however I want, much easier and much less expensive than if I were to be doing this with a PTW. Starting at the back, you've got an odd 4-position adjustable stock. It actually is the same length as a 5-position, but there's no 5th adjustment hole, kind of right here in the middle. You have an ambidextrous loop-style sling mount here that allows you to easily transition from right to left because it's an unbroken thing from side to side. The receiver is a standard M4 type metal receiver that's, like I said, a little boring to look at, but functionally the thing works great. You have a functional bolt catch that is released by the button on the left side, and you have a real steel style magazine release, so you might have to do a little tweaking on that when you're undoing it, because you do have to push it all the way in when you unscrew it. But at least you're not having to fight with one of those teeny tiny little hex screws that many of these do have. Up front, you have what appears to be a convertible 14.5-inch outer barrel. It does have the mark here that looks like you can remove this extension, but the extension appears to be glued in place pretty well. So we'll be heating this up and trying to break it loose a little bit later on. And a 2-piece KC style railed handguard that fits very solidly on there, very little, almost no free play on it. But it does have some paint scratches. The paint on this does tend to scratch a little bit easier than I would like. Now, inside this gun is really what makes it special, because obviously the externals are good. I mean, they're very good looking externals. I certainly put them on par with like VFC and stuff like that, aside from the slightly fragile paint finish, but they're just a little boring. Inside this is really where it counts. Now, some of the features of the WE M4 that transition over to this, you do have the selector switch, which when you flip it on safe allows the spring to be decompressed. It actuates your anti-reversal latch. That becomes important because you have to put it on safe and decompress the spring before you open up the gearbox. Now, when you shoot this thing, there's no good way of saying this, it sounds broken. If you've ever used just a standard M4 AEG, you know that when you get a jam or you get misfeed, it starts making kind of a funky sound. And this thing kind of makes that sound all the time. There's nothing wrong. It's not broken. It's not jammed. It's just because of the PTW type upper cylinder, it feeds in a different way. There's no traditional tappet plate like you would normally have. So things just make different noises. So to disassemble the gun, you flip it onto safe, and you can hear that anti-reversal latch trip, and that spring is now decompressed. That is going to unlock this rear pin. If the gun is on any of the fire modes, this rear pin cannot be pushed out. But once it's on safe, the rear pin can be pushed out. It is a captive pin design, so you're not going to lose it. And the gun splits open just like a real AR. And you could take out this little cylinder. The red cylinder in my testing is good for about 350 FPS with shot consistency plus or minus 2 FPS on either end. It is a very consistent stock gun. You have a standard TM style hop-up unit. It is clear plastic and it doesn't have any funky nubs or bucking or anything like that. So you have this PTW style. It is not a PTW cylinder. You can't just throw PTW cylinders in this. They need to be the Katana series. but you have this type of cylinder, but mated with mostly standard version 2 lower components. So things like your gears and stuff like that, you can swap those out with these. You don't have to get the funky planetary gear system. It means the receiver is closer to AEG size as opposed to the PTW, which has a real size receiver. But I will certainly trade upgraded parts compatibility for that. So 350 FPS, the gray cylinder, the sort of silverish one, which is again about 53 bucks, is good for 400 FPS. And you just slide it in, ensuring everything is properly lined up. Flip that down. And now you have a 400 FPS AEG, just like that. So there are going to be some sort of tournament locks needed for some fields. There are some fields that don't like PTWs because, oh, you can quickly change the velocity and blah, 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 blah. It'll cause everybody to be a cheater. So some of them like zip tie the receiver closed. But just make sure that you're playing along with your field rules and have it set up however they need it set up. So sort of in closing, the things that I really, really like about this. I like the fact that stock pistol grip, outer barrel, handguard, magazine, everything is standard TN compatible. So I can use my plethora of accessories and do a trick custom build out with this thing. And then I really like the fact that I can hot swap in a faster or slower cylinder depending on what my field's rules are. Parts compatibility for the upper cylinders is a little bit more tricky than just normal AEG parts, obviously, but my understanding and from what I've seen is you can use things like the PTW piston, the piston head, stuff like that is PTW is my understanding of that, and if that's wrong, please correct me in the comments so that I can get accurate information out there. But for about 50 bucks, you can buy basically a complete ready to go out of the box cylinder at whatever your performance goal might be. You want to hit 350 FPS? Get the red one. You want 400 FPS? Get the gray one. And I believe there's a blue one that I think is shooting even faster, around like 420 to 430 FPS. So it's really easy to just quickly switch parts around, and the lower gearbox seems to handle that just fine. Your rate of fire will change. It is lower, obviously, with the higher FPS cylinder, but the thing just swaps right in. You don't have to change gears or motor or battery or anything like that. So again, overall, for about 360 bucks, you got a blank canvas, essentially. You've got a very, very nice starting place to build a custom, very high-end M4 platform, and the thing should last for a very long time. Now, I guess there were complaints on the earlier versions of these things stripping pistons left and right. I've put a few thousand rounds through both of these cylinders, all on an 11.1 volt LiPo, and haven't had any problems yet. I think this is a later version, because those earlier versions, my understanding is they did not have a separate nub in the hop-up chamber. It was just the arm that actuated the hop-up bucking. This one does have a rubber nub in the hop-up chamber, so I don't know if this is a newer version, a different version for the US or what, but it is what it is. So many thanks to Airsoft Megastore for popping this thing over, to letting us check it out. And be sure to check out the full review, which will be posted on Airsoft Retreat and BooliganAirsoft.com in the next week or so. Thanks for watching.